Science and math overlap a lot. So scientific notation occurs in both. Okay. Scientific notation is very helpful when you're writing really, really small numbers and really, really big numbers. So we're actually going to put that down. Helpful when using very large or very small numbers. Okay. So you're using either really, really small numbers or really, really big numbers. So like a good example is like when we talk about going to the moon. Okay, that's obviously a very far distance. So that's why they use scientific notation. Okay. And then when they want to use calculations with those things, like bacteria cells are obviously very, very small. Okay. So you're going to want to use scientific notation. If they're going to want to multiply those, you're going to want to use scientific notation. You want to do operations in that. We will get into operations with scientific notation on, I think, Monday or so. But right now, we're just talking about writing in scientific notation. So if we want to write them in scientific notation, here's a couple of things we need. You need one digit between 1 and 9. So only digit 1 between 1 and 9 before the decimal. Okay, so you have to have one digit between 1 and 9. So you could have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9 in front of the decimal. You cannot have a 0 in front of the decimal. Okay, so that's one requirement. Then you have to write, after that decimal part, you have to write times 10 to some exponent. I'm going to put a little box up there because you have to fill that in. They do use the X for the multiply sign, which kind of is frustrating when you're talking about math, because then it looks like a variable. But if you know it's scientific notation, just know that that's the multiply sign. Okay. And then one other thing, which is going to be a little frustrating because I just told you one way. When it's scientific notation, you can have negative exponents. Just because it's scientific notation. So this number in that box, that 10 to the whatever, could be a negative exponent. Just for scientific notation. Okay. So we'll take a look at our worksheet. All right. So scientific note, so it says write each number in scientific notation. Okay. So remember our 3 little rules there. Has to be one digit in front of the decimal. That's a digit between 1 and through 9. Okay. That one does break the rules. So we need to move that decimal. Okay. So I need to find a digit between 1 and 9. So I'm going to move this decimal over. And I'm going to kind of keep track of how many times I'm moving it over. If I stop here, is there a digit before the decimal that's a digit between 1 and 9? No, not quite. So I actually have to go one more. So I have a 6 or a 6.0. It doesn't matter. However you want to write that, 6 or 6.0. Okay. And now remember, I have to have that times 10. Now I have to fill in that exponent. Well, however many times I moved it over, that's the number I'm going to write. But then I have to remember if it's a positive or a negative. So count how many times you moved it over. 6. Okay, everyone agree? Okay. Now, if I think about it, is this a really, really small number originally or a really, really big number? It is a really, really small number. So should this be a positive 6 or a negative 6? This should be a negative. Because if you took that times a positive 6, you'd have to multiply, you'd have to move that decimal to the right, and then that would be a huge number. And this one is a really, really tiny number. Okay? Makes sense? Okay. Let's try the next one. Where? That's it. That's it. That's the scientific notation. That's it. If that helps you think about it, sure. Okay, let's try the next one. Number 2. Where's the decimal on number 2? It's on the way right? It's invisible right now. Yeah, it's not shown, but it's there, right? So draw that in first. Now, is there only one digit in front of the decimal between 1 and 9? No, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff before it. So keep moving it over. If I stop right here, that would be 2 digits in front of the decimal. Don't want that. So I have to keep going. So I have to stop between the 5 and the 4, right? So I have 5.4. Everyone agree? That makes sense, right? So how many times did I move that over? 6 or 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Should that be a positive 6 or a negative 6? That is going to be a positive because that number was really huge at the beginning, right? So that's going to stay positive. Okay, now we're going to stop with that. We're going to look at the back side. This might actually connect it more for you to know if it's a positive or negative after you write them in standard form. Okay, so they give us 0.9. You start with that 0.9. Okay, they're saying times 10 to the negative 1. So that exponent is telling me how many times to move my decimal. Now, if I'm going negative direction, does that mean left or does that mean right? That means to the left. So I need to move this to the left 1 place. Bloop. So now my decimal is right here, not here anymore. So I have 0.09. That might help you with the front side too. Because now if you look back here and you say, oh, I have 6.0 times 10 to the negative 6, I would move my decimal which way? Right. It's a negative. To the left. Left 6 times, would that end up being that number? Yeah. Yes. So you can always double check it. So let's try another one like 18. Where's that decimal on that 2? On the right-hand side, right? Right behind it. Okay. Now, how many times is that decimal going to get moved? Once. In which direction? To the left. So it's right before it now. So I have 0.2. Okay. Let's try 19. So I have 2, right, with the decimal after it. Which direction is that exponent? To the right, how many? 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have these little waves, what do I need to fill them in with? Zeros. Then you can go back and put your commas in after. Those are really big numbers. Now, do I need to make sure the decimal's written at the end? No, you don't have to because it's implied that it's there. But if you want to put it in there, you sure can. That's a comma after that. So that's 200,000. Yeah, it's a big number. I wish I had that much money. I do. Yeah. So, okay, I will come around and help you a little bit. So number 8 is kind of tricky because they're giving it to you kind of almost in scientific notation, but not quite, right? That's not perfect, is it? So you're going to have to do some work on that one to make it into scientific notation the correct way. Okay, just pre-warning.